Balake. Where is Balake at?
My name's Blake.
Do you want to go to war, Balake? I'm for real. Ron.
Ron is right here. Thank you for joining me, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Guys, one of the weirdest things Scientology does is try, and they keep pushing this narrative that you can be a Scientologist and be a Christian. Now, they don't just say you can be a Christian. They say you can be anything. You can be Muslim, you can be Jewish, you can be an atheist, whatever. It doesn't matter. But they do kind of focus on the Christian angle. And I think it's probably because they just know there are so many Christians. People always wonder, why does Scientology use the cross as a symbol? And the cross is, you know, someone might say the cross is somewhat of a universal symbol, but the answer is one of the reasons Scientology uses the cross is to trick people into thinking there is something Christian or Christian adjacent about Scientology. And I've already done a number of videos on this channel explaining exactly why it's literally impossible to be both a Christian and a Scientologist. But Mike Rinder put up a post today on his blog that gives yet another answer to this question and gives yet another example of L. Ron Hubbard, in his own words, taking a massive steaming dump on the very idea of Christianity and even Jesus Christ. And I figured, you know what, why not give this subject a little more exposure? Let me share with you what Mike Rinder shared with everyone. These are L. Ron Hubbard's own words. Mike Rinder reports, here's another quote from L. Ron Hubbard expressing thoughts about Christianity. Quote, "It's an interesting thing that there exists on Earth a cult which believes 100% that it has the only God there is in this universe. And this is quite an interesting thing." See, this is terribly interesting. "Anybody who says he has a total monopoly on all there is of something which you can't weigh, see, or measure is suspect. Christianity's gain in the world and its departure from its own announced principles were in the main in the direction of control. It is not even a major group today in European and American spheres of influence. It keeps telling you that it is, but it isn't. The majority of the white races today are not members of the Christian church." Okay, weird flex, but all right. "And there are about 10 times as many Buddhists." 10 times as many Buddhists as there are Christians? Okay. "Oh, I don't know, 200 times as many Buddhists or something." Oh, okay, 200 times. Okay. "Rather overwhelmingly big." But that was an effort to control, and an interesting effort to control, because when it failed in its own basic tenets, it then departed from its basics, and our quarrel with it is that in practice, it isn't what it says it is. That's our only quarrel with it. It is something that tries to appear one way when it is something else. All right, well, I mean, you could say that that's the exact same description you could give of Scientology. It is something that tries to appear one way when it is something else. So it's always a little weird reading L. Ron Hubbard's words when this is a transcript from a lecture. It does sound a little, I mean, it already sounds a little weird how he structures his thoughts when you listen to it in a lecture. It sounds even more weird when you put it into print, because you don't get the same cadence or whatever. But anyway, it is what it is. Mike Rinder takes up this theme of Scientology pretending to be something other than what it is, and he gives a bunch of examples. He says, if you start listing the ways Scientology is not what it says it is, we could be here all day, just a few. Proclaims itself pro-family, but destroys families with disconnection routinely. Proclaims itself pro-Christian, just see the above quotes and earlier posts, including this. Can Scientologists be Christians or Jews as well? Actually, I will put the link to that other article that Mike did on this subject in the description down below. Proclaims itself gay-friendly, and yet in practice tries to audit the gay away. Proclaims the work was free, keep it so, while charging exorbitant prices, which sends people into bankruptcy routinely. Proclaims to love its enemies. L. Ron Hubbard wrote an article called What is Greatness, where he talks about how important it is to love your enemies, while actively pursuing policies to destroy them. Quote from L. Ron Hubbard is, ruin them utterly if possible. There are many more examples, and just for good measure, here is another Hubbard quote about Christ. Quote, evidently, it's practically an affront not to be able to find out about something. Anytime you want to go around wearing a bath towel with a Woolworth diamond on it and be a swami reading people's minds, Also, take out a large insurance policy and get your burial arrangements straight. It's probably why they hung Christ, if they did. That's right, that's right. If he was the Son of God, he should have been able to find out about all the orthodox malpractices, and he didn't. And they hung him. They didn't hung him, they crucified him, common practice of the day, if he existed. It isn't true that he led a good life, so they crucified him. You see, that wouldn't be the right story. He should have found out about him, and he didn't. So you see, they had to crucify him, and that's just about the way it would be. I mean, that is a very clumsy and hard to understand paragraph. It's only slightly less clumsy if you hear him actually say it instead of seeing it written. But you'll notice here, he even says, if Christ even existed, you cannot question whether Christ existed and say, well, you can be a Scientologist and a Christian. It just doesn't work, you guys. Now, if I were to steel man the argument on Scientology's side, they would probably say that it doesn't matter what L. Ron, like even if they were to actually admit, like if they were to come out and say, yes, L. Ron Hubbard said there is no Christ, all religion is false, the only correct body of knowledge about spirituality or the supreme being lies in Scientology. And yet Scientology might even say, and yet you can still believe in all of Christianity and still participate in Scientology. That's what they would probably say. And it would still be untrue, you guys, because even at the most basic fundamental levels of Scientology, the fundamental principles of Scientology involve this belief in not only a past life, but billions and trillions of past lives. You cannot practice a mental or religious philosophy that believes in endless past lives and does not believe in Christ or God or heaven or hell and still call yourself a Christian. I'm sorry, Scientology, it just doesn't work that way. And there's probably 100 other examples I could give you on this subject, but I figured, you know what? Let's just take the stuff that Mike Rinder posted on his blog today. Let's highlight that, and we'll just add that to the mountain of evidence that already exists. You cannot be a Christian and be a Scientologist. If a Scientologist ever says that to your face, you see someone say it in an interview, just know they are bold-faced lying. They are spreading Scientology propaganda, and they are just proving yet again that it is impossible for a Scientologist to be honest with the public, with the world, about what Scientology really is. And by the way, this is why you do not see Scientology spokespeople talking to the press. Just ask yourself, when's the last time you saw a Scientology spokesperson speak to the press? The only person who speaks to the press on behalf of Scientology is a non-Scientologist attorney named Monique Yingling, who claims to be a Catholic and who has never had any actual involvement in Scientology itself. How strange is it that the Church of Scientology has a Catholic lawyer speak on its behalf to the press and not one of its own members or one of its own spokespeople? It is just bananas. And yet, you know, I guess we don't really expect much more from Scientology than that these days, do we? So that's all I've got on this for now, you guys. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Thank you to everyone who watches until the very end, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe right here. Bye.